Padres Hot Tub comes your way courtesy of our man Wally at Estate Leak Detection and Plumbing. We're going to tell you one more time. Write this number down. Save it in your phone. I say write it down. Like what? You're going to do that next to the phone that you've got the landline attached to the wall on the kitchen counter? No. Put it in your phone. Open up your contacts. Type in Estate Leak Detection and Plumbing and this number, 619 300 7203. See, I don't need to remember it because I've saved it in my phone. 619 300 7203. Because you never know the day you're going to have a plumbing emergency at your home. You never know when there's going to be a situation where maybe under your house there's a leak that's causing issues and is leading to mold and other great big problems. But when that situation arises, the one thing you're going to be looking for is somebody that you know is trustworthy and that you know is responsive. And Chris, that's our guy, Wally.
What's going to happen, and this is definitely going to happen, is you're going to be sitting at home one day, and future you is going to walk through the wall. There's going to be a little portal open up. Future you is going to come in. He's going to say, hey, write down this number. You're going to do it. And then as soon as he goes away, there's going to be a leak in the wall. And you're going to have a number to call. Either that, or you're going to get the number right now when we give it to you, and it's going to save you a whole lot of money and frustration later on in your life.
Absolutely, because let's be clear, breaking through interdimensional walls simply to share phone numbers is an improper use of the technology. And it leads to future fissures and everything everywhere all at once situation. Next thing you know, we've all got hot dogs for fingers. So don't do that. Do this. Save the number, 619 300 7203. That's Wally. That's Estate Leak Detection and Plumbing. Local, reliable, trustworthy. Padres Hot Tub, everybody. Greg Elsten, Chris Reed, Raphie Cantor. We are back with you. It is a Monday, August 7th, 2023. The Dodgers series, it's over. They can't hurt us anymore, guys. It's over. It's done. The bad times are gone. We can regroup and build again. Gentlemen, that was a rough 96 hours of Padres fandom.
Yeah, I mean, it's done until we play them in Los Angeles in September, which we play them on 9/11. So strap in, double whammy that day, boys. But we listen. We're recording right after a loss, so it's a sad podcast. Just to start, like we talked in the past how like the moons affect the tides. The whims of a day-to-day thing that happens on the field definitely affects us on this show. I don't think, as people have said on Twitter, Discord, et cetera, that the season is now over. I think that we're now even amongst the 1-3 that we put up this weekend against the Dodgers still have 40% playoff odds, which is getting into coin flip territory. We crossed that 50% threshold over the weekend after the win, which was really exciting. Only to promptly and swiftly dip back under it. But listen, I mean, this is a point that I'm going to come back to later on the show. These games count the same as the other games. So we don't have to play the Dodgers 162 times. And boy, is that a good news for this franchise. But you got to perform in the other games. So that's where I'm at right now. Fine, you got to lose these ones. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Well, if you're going to be pooping in the bed at camp, it's great when everybody else is pooping in the bed too. So when you stuff your sheets in the laundry, nobody quite knows who's pooping what.
Where'd you go to camp?
Several different places, wherever I could, wherever they would let me. I got kicked out of a few. And right now, there's a lot of teams pooping the bed. There's a lot of teams with losing records ahead of the Padres in the wild card standings the last 10 games. I don't have to list them all. You can look at them. They're both kind of a nice little warning that it could get worse, and got to make you feel good because the team's playing better than it has most of the year, and those other teams are playing worse.
We're going to talk about all 4 games in the series. All 4 of them have discussion topics worthy of being brought up on the show. We're going to talk about Joe Musgrove. We're going to talk about season ticket prices being announced for another hike for the 3rd straight year, and that coming out right on the heels of 2 awful losses to the Dodgers. Timing is just everything. Eric Grupner not loving his timing today. We will look ahead to what I believe to be the beginning of the actual playoff for the San Diego Padres. And we're going to do that all on this show. Let's start off with a couple of points of business. First off, it's been this way all season long, but still we get new people, new audience all the time. So a reminder that this show is now on YouTube as well as in audio podcast form. We have a YouTube channel, Padres Hot Tub YouTube channel, Pods Above Replacement. Each week has been doing a video forward show. Our show is on video. We've done some video shorts as well. We ask that you subscribe and also, if possible, watch the show on YouTube. And, even if it's just in your pocket while you're listening on your earbuds or whatever, watch the show on YouTube. It really helps. We're getting toward that 1,000 subscriber mark. Along those lines, a new Pods Above Replacement dropped on Sunday with Raphie and with John Percoda going through with the statistical analysis of the Padres trade deadline moves. And they went through each trade. And then Raphie got snookered in a game into taking bad positions and adopting some of our least favorite trade pickups. So you can check that all out on Pods Above Replacement. In fact, we ask that you subscribe and leave a comment on this show right here. And we've got a little incentive for you. Look at this.
What do you got there, Craig?
If only I was watching this on video.
Right?
Yeah.
You would see.
Nobody listening on Apple Podcast knows what's happening.
That's a Blake Snell autographed baseball, ladies and gentlemen. Authenticated, boxed, and right here. And we will select from those who comment on this week's show. Or, right, Raphie, because we started this in July. Any of our shows? Any of our shows this month?
Yeah.
If you commented on the last show in June, you are still entered into this. I went on honeymoon. Craig went on vacation. We all kind of fell off of it. Oh, yeah, we have this Blake Snell autographed baseball we were supposed to give away. So comments on this show here or the comment on the last show in June. But, you should be watching this one. So it's right there. Just comment and be subscribed to our channel and you'll be good.
That's it. That's all you got to do. Subscribe to the channel, drop a little comment in, and then you go into the hopper to get that Blake Snell autographed baseball, and we will send it to you. Lastly, in terms of little points of business, we are now in the 4th week of a new podcast, Immaculate Talk, which is a Monday through Friday daily companion to the Immaculate Grid baseball trivia game online with myself and longtime writer Joe Sheehan. We've been getting incredible response. The show has just grown each week in terms of engagement, in terms of listenership and downloads. We have an email address as well, immaculatetalk@gmail.com. We have a Padres Hot Tub Gmail, padreshhottub@gmail.com. Happy to get your emails, your comments, and we'll deal with those in some way or another, please. But really excited about that. So if you play Immaculate Grid, or if you just want to hear 2 guys talking baseball for 20 minutes and remembering some guys and having a lot of fun, telling a lot of stories, check out Immaculate Talk. We've really started branching things out, doing theme days, theme grids. We've even had some contact with the folks at Baseball Reference. So check out Immaculate Talk. A lot of fun and available on all podcast platforms. Now, transitioning into our content, I watched you guys, Rafe, on the Pods Above Replacement trade deadline analysis show yesterday. And, as always, great job by you cats. And you come from a point of view, a perspective, a statistical, analytical, methodological point of view. And I respected a lot of the takes you guys made, and also disagreed with a couple of them. And in particular, I thought I'd engage on the discussion point of Ryan Weathers, because you guys were the furthest down on the Ryan Weathers trade of any of the 3 trades that were made on deadline day. And I just couldn't help but feel that it was being done on a theoretical basis and much less on a practical basis. It's more of like what Ryan Weathers could have been in a different box in a different universe as opposed to the one that he is right now. Because I mean, I'm sorry. And I know Rich Hill was terrible and we're going to talk about it. Like Rich Hill was friggin' awful. John Percoda's basic theory is Rich Hill's bad, therefore. And like game 1, he wins, right? Absolutely. But if you told me Ryan Weathers is starting that game and that makes us a better organization, I don't know, man. I don't know. If he turns out to be a great player in Florida, okay, but I don't think it was ever going to work here. I think there was a toxicity to it. I don't think it was going to work here.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on, and that was something I pointed out, by the way, that there is the particular toxicity with Ryan Weathers and his family and the organization and all that. But that being said, Ryan Weathers is a young pitcher still. It doesn't feel like that because he's been in our lives for so long. But Percoda pointed out on the Discord this week that like Adam Mazur is the same age, is older than Ryan Weathers, and we're still looking at Adam Mazur as like a promising prospect. I think 97, 98 mile an hour throwing lefties, they're kind of hard to come by. And there are some, as David last week from Matt Friars said, it's really hard to bring guys to the majors. Like it's really hard to bring them. It just comes down to process though, because if the best that Ryan Weathers is a quad A guy who's just going to be cycling up and down, back and forth through El Paso until he runs out of options, and then he's going to stay in the bullpen as a swingman, as a charismatic type that's just going to be there and soak up innings, and that's the best he ever is. Why do you need to go and trade for that? I think that's the general basis, is like you're giving up the cheap years of cheap control for, hey, we need to make a trade at this deadline to plug a hole because we need guys to eat innings. And the point that John makes is like, if Rich Hill's, 9th in expected ERA, you should just be able to pull that guy from your system. And we have that. We had that in Ryan Weathers, and we theoretically had that in Jackson Wolf. And now it's kind of down to like Matt Waldron, or if you want to give Jay Groom a shot, because Reese Kinnear is dead. And like, we're basically running out of those options of like, hey, we need guys to just jump on a grenade and, soak up these innings. So that's, I think, more what the discussion is that you're selling on all the upside when you kind of know what his downside is already. And we're trading for people who don't have the same upside. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right.
Rich Hill's ceiling and floor are about 2 inches apart.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no question about it. And we'll talk more about Rich Hill when we get to the review.
Raphie, you wanted a first baseman. You got one. You got two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the thing. You look up at the standings today, yesterday, Saturday. I couldn't even imagine the world in which the Padres stared at a 4-game deficit and said, it's just too much. We can't possibly overcome that.
Yeah,
we're going to sell Hader. We're going to sell Snell. We're going to sell Lugo. We're going to sell all our pieces. We're going to make an unequivocal statement to our team that we do not intend to win this year. And you look up as you've done that, and 3 days later, you look up and you look at every team ahead of you in the standings, and they're all falling at you like they just fell off of the top floor of a building.
Well, Cleveland's
they're all just
a joke.
hurtling toward you.
They're a game behind Minnesota for their division league, and they sold. They sold controllable young pitching and Aaron Savali for nothing. And they're a laughing stock because of it.
Yeah. They're a laughing stock because of it. Meanwhile, the Padres today, and we're about to talk about it more, like sent out across the stadium ticket price increases for the 3rd straight year for their sold out ballpark, as they sold out again today and sold out every game this weekend. You're going to do that in the environment of selling when your team was right there on the edge. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry. I do understand. I deeply understand for both you, but especially John, because I know not as much you, Rafe, but John was like very much on the, I think we should have sold. Like, I get it from an analytical standpoint. I get it from a mathematical standpoint. From a practical standpoint, it was absolutely impossible. It was impossible. And it would be an impossible sell here in San Diego. We're the serious team that's going for it. By the way, we stripped down as every one of these teams ahead of us is flying toward us. Even if they don't make the playoffs, this was the right decision because it's winnable, and 2023 is about winning. And so is 2024. And like, honestly, I can't imagine a world in which selling in this environment makes sense. Now, if you're the Mets and you're 12 games under 500, right? Okay, but that's not where the Padres are.
But hang on. Let me pump the brakes a little bit. If you're going to bring up, I wasn't going to bring up the Mets, but you brought up the Mets. When the trade deadline happened that weekend, we were like 1 or 2 games apart from them in the standings. So like that decline has happened since the trade deadline has passed, where we basically
because they sold their
they sold their people 100%. And I think a lot of the like we should have sold argument is predicated on because we would have gotten a great return. And like we don't, that's an unanswerable question. You know what I mean?
Don't know.
We don't know. And it's
was my entire fear the whole time when we were discussing this back in June is the market's weird. You don't know what we value our guys more than anybody else. You don't know what people are going to do for rentals. It's a weird market.
Yes. And Chris, you brought up the Savali-Manzardo trade. Blake Snell was someone who, when I was like thinking about potential returns, I was like, Snell for Manzardo 1-for-1 would be amazing for me. Like, I think that I would be willing to make that trade because that's someone who immediately makes you better in a place of deficiency for us organizationally. And then I saw that it took Savale, who has 2.5 years of control and is no Blake Snell this year, but is not a bad pitcher. And I was like, oh, okay. The price was not going to be what we potentially wanted.
Yeah.
Do I think that AJ Preller, who said that they were listening on offers, set the prices for Snell and Hader exorbitantly high because then listen, I tried to sell and they didn't. Of course he did. Of course he did. Again, because I agree with you, Craig, I'm sure that like any sell, you're also going to have to talk Peter Seidler into that. And I don't know that he's going to agree with that. So I hear you on the practicality argument. And I think that there are some unknowables that the selling argument is predicated on, but we're here now. We're here now. And that's the point. We're here now.
We are here now. And 1-3 against the Dodgers has in no way eliminated the Padres. 1-3 against the Dodgers has in no way darkened the clouds for this team. And I'm going to be really clear about this. In no way like it would if it happened next weekend. Okay? The Padres don't have to finish ahead of the Dodgers to make it to the playoffs. Correct. And you know what? They're not gonna.
Nope.
They're not gonna finish ahead of the Dodgers. They've lost the season series to the Dodgers for the 13th straight season. My son has not been alive on Earth to experience a year where the Padres won the season series from the Los Angeles Dodgers. And maybe he never will. Maybe the Dodgers will win, 95 consecutive season series against the San Diego Padres. It doesn't matter. This year, it doesn't matter. The Padres need to get to the playoffs and deal with the playoffs when they get there. And this was just a shit series to be in the way at this time. It was almost a bad draw because the Dodgers are better than the Padres. The Dodgers are a better team than the Padres. Do they have
Tevin.
Do they have a better pitching staff on paper than the Padres? No. Do they have a better defense than the Padres on paper or reality or anything? No. Do they have a better offense than the Padres? Yes. Much. And Mookie Betts should be the NL MVP. I don't. To me, there's
Acuna?
Just no. Acuna, no.
Acuna's got so many friends helping him out.
Ooh, spicy.
Acuna is a great right fielder having a great right season. Mookie Betts is a great right fielder playing second base and shortstop for his team while leading off and being part of the single best 1-2 punch in the history of Major League Baseball since 1906.
I don't agree with Craig, but I do see the argument.
When's the last time you saw Acuna's stat line? I'm just curious.
He's really good. I know he's really good.
He's hitting 343, 425, 589.
That seems
okay.
Good.
It's
that seems right good. Fielder.
He's really good.
He's having a good year. He's a right fielder having a good year. Didn't I say that, Raphie? He has not stepped in a pinch when his team's key young shortstop was injured for the year and just moved right into the keystone. Moved right into shortstop, second base, not dropped a beat, stayed there, didn't do the whole, well, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a big star player, I got to do. He just shows up and does the thing. And gosh darn it, because I root against him all the time. James is convinced that Mookie Betts is my least favorite player in baseball. Like when we were up visiting Grandpa, and every time, he's watching the Dodgers, and here's Mookie Betts with his fourth hit, and every time I'd just be like, God, just don't tell me any more about Mookie Betts. This guy, all he does is he gets every big hit, playing every position for the team, leading off. He's that thing. You're 3 away from Betts. Oh God, it's going to come to Betts. Today's game. Oh God, it came to Betts. You're like, we're going to lose. And then we lost. Like, I don't know. Mookie Betts MVP. That's my
There is a seafood restaurant that specializes in boiled crawfish up in Sherman Way in North Hollywood, California. And I will never forget the night that I was sitting in it and they announced that Mookie Betts and David Price have been traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers. It spoiled my taste of that succulent seafood immediately, which only one thing could do. And it'll always be like a little bit of like the what if. What if the Padres were just spending money back then and were willing to eat some contracts? That's the guy that'll always be, because he's a decent human being. It's horrible he has to wear that stupid uniform and do what he does to us on a series by series basis.
And I just want to commend you, Craig, for pointing out that Mookie exhibits leadership, and that's why you continue to support Eric Hosmer and think it was wrong that he should have left the team, because Mookie knows how to be a leader like Eric Hosmer.
Both great Red Sox.
Just like Eric Hosmer. Hey, Eric, here's something for the team. We're going to trade you to Washington. Fuck no, I won't go. Tell Luke Voigt's career. Tell Luke Voigt's career it's got to change because leaderships. Yeah, no. Anyways, enough of that. We're going to talk more. God, I don't even want to talk more about the Dodgers, but we're going to break down that series in a second. But we got to talk about the ticket price increases. It's going to be top of mind for a lot of people. And certainly not you guys, because you're not season ticket members. I am a season ticket member. Plenty of our listenership are season ticket members, whether it's full season, 40 game, 20 game, etc. And Eric Grupner sent a email letter yesterday to all season ticket holders. Basically said, look at us, look at all the great things we've done, look at all the payroll we've committed. There's going to be a modest increase. You'll find out some more tomorrow. And then the way you find out more tomorrow is that they just send you a link to your invoice. And then you can do all the math yourself and figure out what happened. And the story in the Union Tribune says that the team is saying that overall, on average, season ticket prices are rising 9% this year. Over last year, it was more like 15% the previous year, and it was 20% between 2021 and 2022. So they're like, look, we're raising it less. I know in particular for my seats are going up 14%, not 9%. They're going up 14% because I did the math. And frankly, my seats personally have gotten to the point where I'd have to, depending on my job situation next year, at least think about it. But the one difference is, as long as, and I think this is really important for full season ticket members, as long as demand remains where it is, setting the price point higher doesn't take me off the buy, because I'm still making back the money for the season tickets and then some by reselling half of the tickets over the course of the year. The idea of a Padres team completely out of it, playing out the string, was something very scary for season ticket members who had saved up games to sell for the end of the year and then like, no one wants to go anymore, situation. And as long as that supply-demand dynamic remains in place, the Padres raising the ticket prices isn't going to have a material impact on the ballpark experience or on people's decision-making processes. But guys, as I kind of turn it back over to you, I just have to say I don't know where the limit is, but there's a pain threshold that's out there somewhere. There's a pain threshold, and I got to think the Padres are getting close to that pain threshold. I almost feel like they've turned up this spigot kind of almost as far as they can.
You got to figure they know there's a pain threshold too, which is kind of why you hear the CEO of the team constantly kind of not giving like pulling back the reins or like issuing, foreboding warnings, but just kind of saying, yeah, we are a business. There are limitations to how our payroll will be spent. And they got to know it. They got to know where it is. The incomes of people working aren't necessarily going up at the rate the payroll is. So I hope those numbers are not tied too closely together.
Yeah, and this is something that we had talked about in that Pods Above Replacement episode. You mentioned like what's the limit? Where's the end? Where's the end of this? And I had said that like if you gave AJ Preller some truth serum and said, what's the plan? Like, what's the big plan for the team? And I think he would say, like, I am a great scout. I am a great drafter. I am a great international talent finder. And we're going to bring guys in and we're going to trade them for talent. And for me, the question is like, how long can that sustain itself? And this is all connected to that. Because now they got to increase payroll because they don't have developed cheap talent. And if they're going to increase payroll, then they got to bring in more money. So if they bring in more money, they got to raise season ticket prices. And it goes on and on and on. And I'm with you, Craig, where I'm like, wait, what is the balance that they're basically trying to strike? And I think that they're figuring that out, if they're being honest. And they actually don't need to answer that question right now. So they're not really worrying about the answer. I think it's good that we're asking the question so that someone's putting it out there. But I don't think that they have the answer.
Just to put out, anecdotal stuff in the Discord, I've seen two numbers of increases, and they've been 12.5% and 17%.
Yeah, and mine was 14, like pretty much on the dot. And again, I look at it and I go, I don't really look forward to paying that in December and January and February and March, but like during the summer, money comes back. And you have to, on the overall spreadsheet, you can look at it as a full season member and say, okay, I can still afford to do this. But even someone who can sell their tickets, you get to a point where you can't afford to do it anymore. And we're not far from that. I know if the team makes the playoffs, the price for the playoff tickets are going to be through the roof. But the way that you do that is you sell one, and that ties right back to this last weekend series, boys. Because when you're a full season ticket member, the games that simultaneously are the most annoying to attend by far and the most lucrative to sell by far are LA. And then we get mad when the crowd is 50-50 LA, San Diego, or we get mad, as I was Sunday, being at the game and being in a really negative fan environment in our home ballpark. Like, that isn't great. But also, when you create this financial circumstance for us as fans, how the hell do you think we're going to afford to be in there if not selling our tickets to Dodger fans? It's tough, but it's kind of real talk.
Can we loop in the Cronenworth comments?
Please, I would love to.
They're of a
I would
piece.
love to.
Good.
Yes.
Chris, do you have them, or Craig?
I do. I have the quote right here. So Jacob Cronenworth talked with Kevin AC after the win, this home win against the Dodgers Saturday night. And here's his quote. I want to give you the full context of it, too, because he's talking specifically about how Dodgers fans fill the stadium. And here's Jacob Cronenworth. I think we wish that that's how it was the whole game or every time we play them at home. I know their fans travel really well, and it's just who their fan base is, obviously close to here, so it helps. But I think if there's one thing I can say to our fans, like, we feel it when you get behind us. I'm talking to them, Cronenworth said, talking into the phone. We feel it when you get behind us. No matter how close the game is, whatever the score is, tonight, 3-1 in the 8th, leadoff base hit, we feel that. You guys help us build momentum just as much as us. So please, do that more often. Well, Jake, when the team's 2 games behind 500, the season ticket prices are going up 20% every year, and you let balls bounce off you into right field, people are more likely to sell their tickets to make ends meet, buddy. That's just how it is.
That was my thought when I think there are big overreactions on either side to these comments.
Yeah.
I think that they're, he's really just giving an interview and just trying to do interview talk and not really say a bunch of stuff without actually saying anything. But I think that that's the biggest point, is that the team has lost the right to go, where are the rah-rah home crowds?
He's using it as an excuse, man. Yeah. He's using it as an excuse for winning, which means he's also using it as an excuse for losing. And the team can have all the excuses at once in this clubhouse. Don't point it at the sellout crowds that have been coming night after night.
The crowds have been incredible.
Lame excuse.
The crowds have been incredible at Petco Park. They've been incredible since 2021 for this team. They're behind this team all the time. There have been so many opportunities to boo the hell out of this team that Padre fans have not afforded. Booing Melvin today was like, finally someone says something, in terms of what happened in that debacle of a game today. But yeah, I'll be very honest. Like, it just solidifies for me that Cronenworth, who I must say has been hitting far better over the last 10 games and should be in the lineup. And I've got no problem wherever they play him, as long as he's hitting like this. That's tremendous. That's what you're paid, to do. And I'm glad you're doing the job, man. It's great. But it reinforces for me that Cronenworth is an emotionally driven player who, in that sense, is kind of weak. Like, he doesn't have that fortitude. He's the guy who gets mad, when things don't go right.
We hate it when Manny doesn't give AF, but at the same time, baseball cards.
You can't have too many Fs to give over the course of 6 months. You can't take every moment like that. And I mean, really, of all the guys in the team, if you were going to fill out a survey, who's the guy on the team that's the most upset when he looks around and he sees a bunch of Dodger blue and he hears a bunch of Dodger cheers at his home park? I mean, like, who are you going to vote ahead of Cronenworth on that list? Toddy?
Maybe Joe. Maybe Musgrove.
Maybe Musgrove. Like, Cronenworth's top 3, no matter what. Like, no matter
but
how
Musgrove's going to go out there and pitch. So, that's a good thing for him to have that edge.
Well, right. Not anymore.
Good transition. On Friday,
that's why he's the producer, kids.
We found out that Joe Musgrove would be shut down for 3 weeks because an MRI revealed inflammation in his right shoulder capsule. The team says that there is no structural damage in the shoulder capsule, which really is important. And our, in the Discord docs have really shown me pretty stark terms and evidence in terms of, if you have that labrum surgery, it's pretty much over for you. It's kind of like the surgery, the thoracic outlet syndrome surgery too. It's like there's a couple surgeries right now that pitchers just aren't coming back from at much of any kind of rate. And shoulder is just, it's a messed up thing, much more than elbow. Shoulder is a messed up thing to deal with. So when they say that there's no structural damage, okay. Also, inflammation can hide structural damage because it's inflamed. So let's play Padres Hot Tub Concernometer. Spin the meter, boys. Where do you land? Raphie, you got your fingers to your forehead. Raphie, where do you land on the Concernometer?
I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned about Joe Musgrove because this is all of a piece. And I'm going to take you back to we were way ahead of this when Joe Musgrove dropped a kettlebell on his toe.
Yep.
And he was doing hyperbaric chambers and doing all this crazy shit to try and get back.
Rushing, Raphie. He was rushing.
Exactly what he was doing, Christopher. He was rushing. He was rushing back in the name of grit, in the name of being a leader, in the name of being a man, like all this stuff. And same thing when he fielded a ground ball in a rehab start and yeeted the ball into over the right field foul fence and landed on his shoulder that he was coming back from. And it's all of a piece. He was rushing back. His mechanics got fucked up, which was reported. And now he's hurt. This is all a very straight line for me. And I want to bring up Anthony Rizzo because Anthony Rizzo, if you haven't been seen lately, is now done being shut down for concussion reasons that they traced back to the series when the Padres played the Yankees over Memorial Day weekend. And he took off some time then for a quote unquote neck injury and passed concussion protocols, but apparently has been feeling dizziness and fogginess and all of this stuff. And it's only now been an alarm bell. Never mind the fact that he's ranked dead fucking last out of qualified hitters with a 43 WRC plus since that very moment. Okay. Yeah. That no one said, hey, something else is wrong, because these guys play 162 games. They just got to play through stuff. It's a long season and they're used to just kind of like muscling it out. And I think that the Musgrove thing is the same thing where he's like, I got to be there for my team. I got to do all this stuff. And in response, now he might be done for the season. And I don't trust the Padres at all whatsoever when it comes to injury news.
For the audio only audience, there is a finger. There was a finger.
There was some gesticulating.
Wow.
Yeah. that
in the face.
Yep.
And I say, no, nay, nay. You are lying to us, good sirs. And so go ahead, Craig.
Well, so the number on the Concernometer then is
out of 10?
Yeah.
I'm an 8. I'm an 8. I'm very concerned.
Okay. 8. Chris?
Yeah. A 10 is he's dead, by the way. Like, not like in the way we say. A 10 is like he's literally dead. So an 8 is I'm concerned.
Oh, I'm not adhering to those terms, Gravy, because I'm putting it at a 10. He's won 10 wins for the team. I think he leads the team in games started besides you. Maybe you's winning, but besides, he's absolutely crucial. He throws a slider. That's like his get out pitch. If his shoulder's wrecked, he's never going to throw that slider again. It's $100 million extension. He makes this great seltzer water, and I'm all about it. That mango shit's delicious, but I need him to pitch for the Padres. That's Joe Musgrove to me. He's the hometown ace that comes out there and just deals and gets filthy and glows beet red under the spotlight. And we need it. And the team's depth isn't good. So, like all the panics, Craig, getting shut down for a month to me basically means out for the season. Like, I know that's what they're trying not to say, but that's basically what it means to me.
My Concernometer is 10. 10. I think it's 1 in 5 that Joe Musgrove pitches again this year. I'm going to go 1 in 5.
That's fair.
You need all of the following things to happen at once. You need 3 weeks to go by. You need that 3-week MRI to show significant decrease in inflammation, combined with no new structural damage discovered when inflammation dies down. So you need a double ding there. At which point you then need Joe Musgrove to ramp up without increasing any more inflammation. You need him to ramp up to doing the major league starting thing again and have the shoulder capsule not respond negatively. Michael Wacha had, I think, a lesser version of this. And how long has he been out? Like a month and a half?
Yeah, I was going to say like 7-8 weeks.
He's just getting ready to, please God, come back this week to the team. And then you're going to wonder how much is left in there. Shoulders are a friggin' mess. And the reason it's a 10 for me, and honestly, I'm going to say this, and I'm hopefully saying this so that Surf Doc or Prakoda or someone else in our Discord is just going to tell me that I'm up a tree. But I think it's about 50-50 that Joe Musgrove pitches in 2024.
Oh,
I think there's a great chance the next time we see him is 2025. Because shoulder, elbow, cascade, one more setback, surgery. One surgery, forget about it. He's done for next year.
You're not wrong. Just, we haven't seen the imaging, and if we had, we wouldn't know what it was. So, like, let's just do fingers crossies. How about that?
Great.
That's just off.
If he comes back and pitches this year, I'll say 60-40 he doesn't pitch next
Chicago.
year. No, I'll say 60-40 he doesn't pitch next year. That he'll do something coming back this year that further injures him and makes the situation more long-term. Joe has been the wrong way guy all year. And he finally figured out a way to pitch that was being super effective, and it wound up hurting his elbow and now his shoulder. These are the things that lead to long-term injury. And he is the type of stubborn mule that's going to do whatever he can to get back to further that injury. So that's why I'm at a 10. It's the confluence of the cascade of injuries he's had this year, plus the personality of the person who is hurt, his history of responding to injury, and what history has told me is the next thing that happens when you push your way through a situation like this. So that's why I am where I am with Musgrove. And you know, that's why I was happy that they got another theoretically qualified major league veteran pitcher to be on the team. And then he went out and said, no, I'm Ryan Weathers, just 20 years older. So, you know, hurry back, Michael Wacha. Stretch out Nick Martinez. Don't fade you, Snell, and Lugo. Because
I want to point out something real quick, too. Manny Machado is nursing an injury that he just got 2 days ago, and he's playing DH and running bases.
Yep. Nice to have Choi now. Nice to have Cooper now. Nice to have the opportunity to do that. That's great. I put this into... I want to make sure, because otherwise I want to do it right here. No, let's do it right here. One more thing. And one more thing. This is now off of Musgrove, okay? Anything further on Musgrove before I close that book?
You said it all, man.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm dead wrong, guys. I hope I'm completely wrong. I hope Joe Musgrove starts 34 games next year. In no way do I want to be I'm not doomsaying. The question is concernometer. My concern is maxed out.
It should be. Like, that's his importance in the franchise, and that's his role in the clubhouse. He's the guy. They've gone out and won 10 games behind Joe Musgrove. Has Joe Musgrove been the best pitcher? No. But he's the guy. He is brown and gold. He bleeds it.
Okay. Kevin Acee has a great newsletter, and he wrote a lovely newsletter, and I think it was today. He devoted the whole first half of the newsletter to a lovely discussion of the professionalism and positive attitude of 38-year-old DH Matt Carpenter, who Kevin did the research to find out, is the only player in Major League Baseball that's been on a roster since, I think it was June 25th. You could look it up. Maybe it was 27th. Whatever the last day was that Carpenter got an at-bat. Had to be the Detroit series, right? And since then, every player on a roster in baseball has at least had 4 at-bats, including guys who are like pure pinch runners or pure defensive substitutes. And Matt Carpenter is the only player in baseball in that time period not to appear in a game whatsoever. And the article was phrased like, well, look at the professionalism of Matt Carpenter.
And, the dignity.
Right. Oh, my. He's willing to do anything. And Matt Carpenter is quoted in the story saying, well, in all the years I've been in baseball, when there's a player that isn't used for a whole week, he's taken off the roster because clearly there's an issue there. And Matt Carpenter is still here. And guys, I'm 100% on board on the Padres are fighting to make the playoffs train, okay? I've already railed quite a lot on this show about this. Why in the actual fuck have we decided that our franchise is going to play with one fewer player than every other franchise? Hey, you all get 7 Scrabble tiles. We'll take 6. We're fine. We'll go 1 short. Okay? We're going to just put a piece of wood on our roster, a log. Be like, well, we've got
Carpenter.
We've got 25 human players and we've got a log. And that's how we're going to try and make a run. We are behind. We are 3 games under 500, behind trailing teams, losing critical games, and we've chosen to put a piece of wood on our roster because, like a piece of wood, Matt Carpenter doesn't appear in baseball games. Okay? I'm not talking about bats. I'm talking about logs. Like, you don't ever tune in to the Phillies and the White Sox and like, and here is a stick. Appearing at third base now, a stump. No. What are they doing? Ben Gamel is there. Azokar is there. Eggy Rosario is there. Put a fucking human being on the roster.
Matt Carpenter is a human being. He's quoted, Craig. He has feelings, he has emotions, and he has dignity. What he doesn't have is an OPS over 600. There are no humans at AAA El Paso, Craig. There are no people there. There are no men swinging bats. There's no baseball. There's no field. There's no stadium. There are no other options. Matt Carpenter is it. And that's my justification because it's the only one I can think of. Because there's nothing else that makes sense, dude. Craig Stammen's off the roster and he played for the team for a long time. So at times last year when he's taking up a roster spot, you're like, well, okay, it makes sense. It's vibes plus maybe he can get an inning here and 2. Matt Carpenter has no history with the Padres. He's a free agent we signed that effectively Wild made a joke about the Padres getting more roster spots than everybody else because they signed him. And that's proven untrue. They have just as many and they need them.
I mean, it's just one reason. It's AJ Preller doesn't want to admit a mistake. That's what it is for me. You say I'll bring up all these guys. Well, none of those guys are getting paid $12 million for the next 2 years. So I think that's what it is. And it's all linked. It's all linked. So it's AJ Preller is the one that controls the roster. So the question is for him. And I think that's what it is.
And it seems like the not playing thing is one of these Bob Melvin things. We've seen it so many times this year. Why is he leaving this guy in so long? Why is he not playing this guy? Well, it's because there's some sort of conflict between the two, between the roster makeup of the team, and it's playing out in the open, and it's playing out in the box scores.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's just, it's literal roster malpractice. We've got a spot on our roster that we don't use. So why? Why do the Dodgers have an extra player that the Padres don't have? Because the Padres are choosing to do this. And even the player himself is like, aren't you supposed to cut me? It's time to let me go. This is when you let me go now, is when you don't talk to me for 10. Carpenter was being quoted like, the front office isn't telling him anything. The manager isn't telling him anything. Nobody's telling him anything. He shows up. He hits in the batting practice group he's assigned to. He stands around like a fucking log.
He's Big Head in Silicon Valley.
Right. That was more valuable. He's nothing. He's a plushie. He's the team mascot at this point. It's ridiculous.
Team does not admit mistakes easily. I think Raphie is right on that. We've seen it play out, this year, last year, the year before. They try not to be reactive to conditions, which means they're slow in making decisions they need to make to be winning.
All right, we've got a whole series to review, and it's got a lot of things to discuss, and patrons are going to hear it straight through. For everyone else, enjoy this. The Padres Hot Tub Patreon community is growing by leaps and bounds, and in these trying times where the Padres are entering a month where every game is twice as important as the one before it, every game is rife with implication, it's great to have a community that can rally around one another, and we've got that at patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. In fact, on Sunday, for a Padres-Dodgers game, as has happened multiple times this year, it was a bring a huge patron to the ballpark today. Bomel Movement, his wife, the young son, all out with me at a Padres-Dodgers game. That's just one of the things you receive as a perk at a higher tier of being a member of our community. But for just $5 a month, you get ad-free podcasts. You won't hear this plea ever again. You get our bonus podcasts, Banter and Have a Drink. You get the opportunity to be a part of our live shows, post-game shows, and group therapy shows, and hear yourself on the podcast. All of that part of our Patreon community. Ticket Marketplace. Hey, on Saturday, I got an email in the early afternoon from our buddies at Letters to AJ saying, hey, I've got 2 field tickets to the game. I can't use them. Let a Padres Hot Tub patron get their hands on those tickets. And those were 2 field level tickets to see an incredible Padres win. So there's all kinds of ancillary benefits above and beyond just the ad-free podcast and the bonus podcast and whatnot. Why not check it out? $5 a month. Why not get involved in this club as they try and make something of this season? Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. All right, guys, I don't want to go forever on these 4 games because to me, the number one thing to keep in mind is this. I'll say it at the beginning because I'm going to say it at the end. All right. There are now 28 games left in what I'm calling the play-in for the Padres. Of that, they started the first 4 of the games were against a team that's way ahead of them that it kind of doesn't matter. The next 2 against Seattle are against a team in a different division, different league. It doesn't really matter. And then there's 26 games, and they're every one of them against teams ahead of us in the standings. And every one of those games are going to be 6-point swings in soccer vernacular. So it's coming. The playoff, the play-in, the danger is coming. For the Dodgers series, it was more about survival. 2-2, we all agreed on Thursday was going to be an outstanding result. And boy, they could have done it. They could have got 2-2 out of that series. They didn't. They got 1-3, and that to me was the bare minimum. Don't get swept. Getting swept would have been a disaster. They won a game. So we're going to get into these games, guys, but I just wanted to start with that. We always get the most worked up. I mean, I've talked about it to you guys. I've talked about it on the show on the Discord, how worked up I get watching these games. So I have to lock myself in this studio with the lights off and, barricade. Everyone gets worked up. It wasn't the end of the world. that we lost 3 out of 4 here to the LA Dodgers.
Yeah. I want to invoke something that was a theme of last year. Do you guys remember what the headline of the Union Tribune was the day after we beat the Dodgers in the NLDS?
Dragon slain?
Dragon dead? Dead dragon.
Yeah, dragon slayed or dragon slain or some reference to the Dragon Slayer thing.
Yeah.
And my question is, did we really slay the dragon or did we just kick it in the nuts? Because like we all act the same way. I'm the same way as you, Craig. I live on knife's edge on these games, and it makes me question my fandom when things like today happen, where the minute that, we went up 5-0 and I was like, okay, like this is great. We got even series split, whatever. And then it really felt like no good deed goes unpunished. It was that sort of level of like, we can't have nice things, et cetera, et cetera. And we always talk about curses on the show. We all know what everyone's positions about curses are. And the thing that I've said is curses aren't real, but if you think you're cursed, you are. And the Padres, the baseball team, the players who we root for, clearly play differently and think differently against this team than they do against anyone else.
Agreed.
They've adopted all of the shit that we have. And the Dragon Slayer's narrative to me feels like something we've talked about constantly on the show, like classic little brother syndrome of like, we got a shot in. We got a shot in on you. And I wish that I didn't have these reactions to these games, but I do. And I think we all do to a certain degree. And so I know that I'm trying to keep my eye on the ball about 1-3 is not a terrible result. And you said we could have easily been 2-2. I think we could have been 3-1.
Sure. Coulda, sure.
And there were very real possibilities for 3 wins out of this. And I'm trying not to take it personally, but boy, does it hurt. Boy, am I really in a rough place, Chris.
Dude, I get you. I didn't expect much better. 2-2 would have been great. Hard to see it coming against the Dodgers playing the way they are. And like Craig said, these just aren't the games that are must win. This isn't where they're going to gain ground. And I didn't want to say the C word, Raphie, but Friday night was Italian Heritage Night at Petco Park. And you know what the Padres did 2 days before Italian Heritage Night at Petco Park, guys? They sent Brett Sullivan back down to Elsten. We won the next night, Dominican Heritage Night. We got 20 freaking Dominicans! They have one paisano, one man of the spaghetti, and they send him home before he gets to eat it.
Hey, Carpenter! You got a mustache. You're Italian today. I know we kept you for a reason.
Maybe that's what it was.
Oh my God, that was funny. All right, there's something to talk about from all 4 of these games. I put today's game at the top just because it's the most recent. We're recording this on Monday, August 7th again. And I'm sorry, the Dodgers, like, situations like this, I just say it because I don't rail against it. The Dodgers are better than us right now. And it proves out in multiple ways. And today's game was a perfect example. 5 runs, bottom of the 3rd. Tony Gonsolin doesn't have it. Team is rolling. Absolutely beautiful. Great. Seth Lugo comes out to start the top of the 4th. Freeman rings a single to get it going. The inning starts to get away, and something becomes clear. Seth Lugo no longer has control of his curveball. His curveball is just a hanger every time. He's looping it right into the center square, the Paul Lynde center square on the grid. And Jason Hayward, smacks one. Smith smacks one. Hayward smacks one. They're smacking him around. He's going away from his curveball. Now he's got right-handed batters like Kike Hernandez and Miguel Rojas at the plate, but he's not even throwing his curveball because he's going away from it. Now he's overthrowing his cutter because he's trying to do something. And he can't even get these dudes out. And 5-0, 5-1, 5-2, 5-4, 5-4, load the bases. And 2 batters too late, the Padres get the bullpen up. 2 batters too late. Now, you understand it. You certainly understand it. You understand it because you had Saturday's game, 5 innings. You had Sunday's game, 3 innings for Rich Hill. And you've got Tuesday's game, which Nick Martinez is scheduled to start and expected to go no more than 3 innings. So you've had taxation on your bullpen. Your long guy went yesterday, so he wasn't ready to just jump in the 4th inning. You were going to have to go to an elite guy like a Wilson. You didn't want to do it. You wanted Lugo to get through the inning, and Lugo had struck out Betts twice. And it was 2 outs, and no, it was 1 out, but he had struck out Betts twice. It's like, well, maybe he'll strike out Mookie Betts. But this was one of the spots that I felt that Bob Melvin was not handcuffed by an organizational thing like Josh Hader must have a clean inning, which we're going to talk about later. This was a spot just to recognize the severity of the situation. And instead he did his thing. He left his guy in too long. Mookie Betts hit a grand slam. There was literally no chance the Padres were going to come back at that point. Once you score 5 and then give up 8 in 1 out, that you don't come back from that unless you're like at Coors Field or Wrigley or on the Moon or Mexico City or something. So I was really bummed out. Like it didn't make me as mad as Friday, but I was really bummed out, and I really felt like Bob Melvin could have materially changed the game by going to Wilson 2 batters, or by going to Wilson at that 8-9 spot in the roster where he could have come in and gotten out Rojas and Kike Hernandez.
Yeah, he just hung on to him too long, trusting his guy, which is kind of like, if you want to point to an easy, kind of discernible flaw in Bob Melvin's approach, it's trusting veteran starters.
Yeah, and I think also, like you said, Craig, going to Steven Wilson a little bit earlier, but now looking at this inning, at when we're down, once it gets to 5-4 and you've got runners on, this is now a high leverage inning. And I think you have to treat it as such. So even if you have to burn a higher leverage guy in the 4th inning or whatever it was to stop the bleeding, it doesn't matter, because you have to keep yourself in the game, because these games are super important. And it's that like, well, it's the 4th inning, and like, if we're going to bring anyone in, it's going to be like a long man. Like, we're not going to bring in like, it's like, it's that sort of thinking that I think, came back to bite them in this. And I don't know when you want to talk about Friday, but like that, the same sort of thing happened in that situation.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming quick. We lost the Pythagorean record to LA. We were if we had won this one, I think 7-0, we could have Pythago won the series. But we did not Pythago win the series, and I'm glad for that. We need some resounding losses occasionally.
Our Pythagorean I'll just say our run differential went down the same amount as your season tickets went up, Craig.
Yeah.
It was like 16-17%.
Solid. The one other note I wanted to make from today, it's just a kind of cautionary note. The Padres made their trades on Tuesday. On Wednesday, Scott Barlow flew in to Colorado from Kansas City, flew overnight, checked in an hour or two before the game, got tossed into that game, and was immediately asked to do something he had done once the entire year, which was to go up and down and get 5 outs. And Scott Barlow, jet lagged, fueled by adrenaline, I'll do anything. He jumps in and he does a 5-out appearance on Wednesday with an up and down. And he pitched twice against the Dodgers, and he was fucking hot garbage both times. After having been extended in a way he hadn't been used the entire year, his next 2 appearances, he was terrible. Terrible. Cautionary note, these aren't strat cards.
Yeah.
And It's not just here's a guy fresh off the plane. Let's throw him an up and down and throw him 5 outs. They needed it that day, but it's like Bill came due, Rafe, on Scott Barlow the last couple of games. I literally point to Wednesday for these last 2 outings for Scott Barlow.
Oh, but I see when you said that, I was like, he's a team player. So now you're going to talk about Hader. I thought that this is when the Hader conversation was coming. And that's why I was like, oh, here we go. Softball, meatball pitch. Let's go. Let's hit this out of the yard. You went a different way that they can't overuse, which I totally appreciate. But we got to talk about the Hader thing. I'm literally itching.
Let's get to Friday.
Okay.
So there's a couple of important things about Friday's game to keep in mind. The first is that the Padres got crazy unlucky in that game. Crazy unlucky. Outman robbing the home run, the Hayward running catch. There were a number of low probability events that happened to bedevil the Padres in that game. Nonetheless, they certainly squandered too many chances early, and they should have had a much better lead than 3-1 and 3-2 going into the late innings. I did put the Barlow thing in front of Hader on purpose because, you want to give Josh Hader a measure of benefit of the doubt. He's decided this is the best way to utilize him, and he's definitely more effective as a result when he's used. He'll probably finish the year with 35 saves and an ERA of 1 or 1.1. And that's beautiful. Okay? And
for free agency, it's amazing.
For free agency, it's perfectly timed. And Scott Barlow really was a team player on Wednesday, showing up and doing something that the team needed that he probably didn't want to do. And it probably did make him pitch worse the next 2 games. And those are the types of things that Bob Melvin and Ruben Niebla have to consider when they make their choices. But Josh Hader could have won Friday's game. Bob Melvin could have used Josh Hader in the 8th with 2 outs when David Peralta came to the plate. 2 outs, 2 on. And yes, I know Suarez had just struck out a guy. I think it was Will Smith, for the second out on like a half or, a dozen pitches, 8, 9, 10 pitches in the at-bat. But in that inning, Robert Suarez was both taxed. He was like way over 20 some pitches, and he was ineffective. He was not locating his fastball in the way that allows his changeup to be tunneled. And it was 2 outs, left-handed batter at the plate. Now, was JD Martinez available? He was. So it's quite possible that Bob Melvin said, 2 on, 2 out. Suarez just struck out a guy. If I bring in Hader, it's just going to be JD Martinez. I'll take my chances with Suarez against Peralta. It's not as easy as, Hader was going to come in and strike out Peralta. Hader was going to face JD Martinez in that spot. Martinez came up 2 spots later in a different spot. He was going to come up in that spot. But with all of those equivocations and caveats, you got to do it. You got to do it. That spot, 100%. Friday night, start the series. Josh, go get a 4-out save. And you know what? If we aren't allowed, based on the riders in your contract, we have to give you shrimp cocktail and a massage immediately after the game, and you're not allowed to pitch Saturday and Sunday, and then you get a special pillow-filled carriage ride to the ballpark on Monday, fine. All of that because we need this game. We need this game today. As it turned out, boys, Josh Hader didn't pitch in this series.
Exactly.
Not
even
one time. And this is a situation where the 8th inning is the 9th inning.
Yes.
So even if I'm not even saying you got to bring him in and have him do a 4-out save. If you're bringing him in just to get that final out, fine. Like, it doesn't matter because we're now at the point in the Dodgers order where that was the cleanup hitter or the 5th hitter. I think it was the cleanup hitter.
The 4th hitter, yeah. It was the cleanup hitter.
Yes. So you're now going to face 5, 6, 7 in the 9th inning if you get that out. And to your point about JD Martinez, Craig, his splits are basically identical, and he's actually slightly better against righties this year, Josh Hader. So, like, whatever you want to say about JD Martinez's splits, like, obviously he's going to have that lefty platoon advantage. Like, it's not on Hader's part. Hader is not a factor in here. So if you're bringing him in to throw one pitch where he induces a weak grounder, it was worth it. It was worth it to protect that lead because we were up 3-1 at that point in the game. And then, you can bring in, I think they brought in Musgrove to try and get that lefty-lefty matchup, which is like, again, if you're not going to pitch Hader, I guess that's your next best situation for that guy. But then he has to be in there and he has to wear it. Like, even when like it's a 3-3 at that point, and it's like we've seen Josh Hader be brought in tie games before. You still couldn't do it because it's not his special little time. It's not his special little time to come to the game. So for me, like, people were blaming Melvin. You can put today's loss on Bob Melvin if you want. Fine, like, whatever. Lugo stayed in the game too long. Friday's loss is on Josh Hader for me. That's for me personally.
No, it sucks. This is why I was fine with Josh Hader getting traded. If you can't work 1.1 innings, getting paid what you get paid, I know you want to get paid a whole lot more, but you're a Major League Baseball player, and he has no writers in his contract, Craig. He's in the last year before he's a free agent. The team owns him. This is the team being nice. This is the team, placating egos or just trying to be the nice guy in the situation. And it doesn't lead to competitive organization. It doesn't lead to serious. I never say that. It's an unserious move. Josh Hader needs to be in the moment when the game's on the line. That used to mean 8th and 9th innings sometimes. It used to mean pitching 3 innings sometimes. That's what a save is. If you pitch 3 innings with a lead, boom, you got a save. Josh Hader it's an absurdity that the Padres aren't demanding it of him. We know what he wants. We know what his wishes are. He's a free agent at the end of the year. If you hurt his feelings and he takes that away from him, too bad. I'm sorry the Brewers broke him. I'm sorry the Brewers exploited him. The Padres have not done that. The Padres have catered to every restriction on his plate. It's the playoffs. It's the Dodgers. Go out there and pitch, man.
Yeah, I'll just tag it by saying, obviously, this team should not sign Josh Hader to a contract of any length. And the next team that signs him, I hope it's the Yankees. But whatever team it is, they're going to deal with these, what I call China doll closer problems, or British sports car closer problems. Oh yeah, I'm the best, but you can only use me in this particular way or else forget about it. It's only going to get worse as he gets older and his volatility rises. And the true proof in the pudding was in the very same inning, because the Padres were unwilling or unable to utilize their closer to protect a 3-2 lead with a cleanup hitter at the plate. But in a 7-4 game, when 2 runners got on with 2 outs and Fernando Tatis Jr. was at the plate, guess who came into the game? Dodgers closer, Evan Phillips, entered the game for a 4-out save. Dodgers blew it out because they blew up Barlow the next half inning, but there was Phillips ready to go for a 4-out save. So the Dodgers, who didn't have anywhere near the urgency to bring that result home, just automatically, as a matter of rote, turned to their best pitcher in their best circumstance. Letters to AJ wrote this very well. The Giants have their entire organization built on the philosophy of, we're always going to make the mathematically defendable play. The win every pitch motto. We're always going to seek the edge in every single moment. And the Padres are like, you know what? We're going to put a fucking log or a plushie as our 26th player on the team. We're going to give the closer all of these Cleopatra rights. I'll do this, but only in this situation, and only then I'll do it for this and that. It's crazy to imagine that we're trying to play and win the same championship as these teams with these restrictions on the roster. And teams are taking advantage of it. Last point. The thing that maybe bugged me the worst the whole weekend, and I am not going to woodsy it up here. I'm not saying throw inside or being a batter or whatever. But Friday night, Joe Kelly went up and in on Tatis twice. One time, so far up and in, looked like he was going to nail him in the hands. Somehow got incredibly lucky for the ball to hit the knob of the bat and turn it into a strike. And then he threw a backdoor two-seamer to strike out Tatis. And then he turned and walked down the mound, and he said, fucking bitch, to Miguel Rojas. And they had a good little laugh at what a fucking bitch Fernando Tatis Jr. is, being treated like a bitch by Joe Kelly on the Major League Diamond, on Tatis's home Major League Diamond. And Kelly just came back in today and got out Tatis again. And like that right there tells you a lot of what you need to know. That right there tells you a lot of what you need to know. That Tatis got treated like a bitch. We didn't do anything about it. Went out there, lost that game, fell apart. Won one more, came back up, blown out the next 2 days. The Dodgers have that attitude. We're their little brother. We're their little bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, there are like really tiny things we could talk about from this series. The Gary Sanchez blocked plate situation, which is like that rule rearing its ugly head, which is like, I don't know. This to me was more, I was less mad about this than the one in San Francisco. That one felt like the most ridiculous one. The Rich Hill of it all yesterday. I just want to point out there was a tweet that John Henderson posted on Twitter where he said that yesterday's least lucky starting pitcher was Rich Hill, and yesterday's luckiest starting pitcher was Lance Lynn.
Yeah,
basically, yeah. The expected numbers on the contact that Rich Hill gave up was a 201 expected WOBA for reference. Brett Sullivan was rocking a 228 expected WOBA. So the Dodgers were hitting worse than Brett Sullivan. And Lance Lynn's expected WOBA allowed was 392. Fernando Tatis Jr. this year has a 385 and Juan Soto has a 405. So somewhere between Soto and Tatis, the entire team was hitting against Lance Lynn yesterday. And that was just baseball. It was just baseball yesterday. And I think that there were these like big, grand things being said about Rich Hill and, everything. Like, I get that. I just want to, I said myself up top about Ryan Weathers and Rich Hill and like that whole thing. But like yesterday was like just baseball and we shouldn't read into it more than that.
This ridiculous parlay happened. So I went to this game, guys, and I am ashamed to say this is the earliest I ever left a baseball game. The sun beats down on my seats, at that time of day. It was a really negative environment. There were some Dodger fans that were coffee housing every single pitch, loud, obnoxious, like right behind us, did a whole thing. Machado, you're a fucking sellout. You're such a sellout. I just kept saying it. Like, I couldn't take it. I turned around and I go, he's a sellout because he didn't take your team's money? Yeah, he didn't have a ring. No ring. Turn around, you fucking Angels fan. Turn around. Sit down. We're kicking your ass. Just like all of that stuff. And amidst that, this parlay happened. Ahmed Rosario got an 0-2 pitch and hit a ball that would be a flyout in 29 of 30 ballparks, 29 of 30, but landed in the first row of the Petco porch, first row of the out jut of the Petco porch. Then the home plate block replay, which I'm sorry.
Crap.
But no. And all the Dodgers fans behind me screaming and yelling at what a great call that is. Mike Scioscia played for your team, assholes. Know your fucking history. Mike Scioscia blocked the plate 5 seconds before the ball got to him every time. And you loved it. You loved it. Idiots. Anyways, that happened. Because of that call, Freddie Freeman gets to bat in an inning that he otherwise wouldn't have. And there's a 10-pitch at bat, and it ends in a home run. And then the Padres come right back up with a chance to get back in the game, and Fernando Tatis grounds into a quote-unquote double play. That when we were watching the replay, I still don't understand how they called him out. And it was like, oh, I guess it's LA, and that's a thing. So all that shit happened, and then I was like, okay, Pedro Avila is coming in, and after that, Luis Garcia is coming in. There's a 1 in 20 chance we win this game. there's a 20 and 20 chance I have to listen to these assholes for another 2 hours. I'm going to go ahead and pull the surrender card. And I walked out. The only thing I want to note about Rich Hill that hasn't been discussed, I haven't seen anyone mention this, but it was as clear as day watching him. He did something I've never seen before in Sunday's game, which is he turned his tempo up to Mark Burley's too slow. He worked the fastest I've ever watched any pitcher work ever. Rich Hill was get the ball, wind up, go. Get the ball, wind up, go. Like, I was waiting for Dodgers to literally be like, hang on, I get until 8 seconds, and to try and slow him down. I was looking up. He was throwing at 14 and 13 seconds on the pitch clock with nobody on base. In other words, in the first second of the pitch clock. And I don't think it helped him at all. I don't know why Turbo Rich Hill was a thing, but he did not have command of his curveball. His fastball was just pumping in there at 90 to 88. He's 43 friggin' years old. Like, take a breather, old man. Slow the pace down. Sure
that was the night of the Taylor Swift show in LA, right? Maybe he had to get up the 5.
Just slow down, Turbo Rich. What's the hurry, man? What's going on? Slow it down. In Arizona, I want to see you take your fucking time. I literally thought it was a bit. No, honestly, I thought it was a bit. I thought it was like, okay, Rich Hill now, like, and Prakotas showed it on the Discord earlier today. He's varying his arm slot in a way he's never done to this extent in his career. Now he's varying his tempo in a way he's never done. It's because he doesn't have anything left.
It's the Ed Harris.
Yes.
Someday you'll do it too.
That's exactly it. He's at the end of the rope and he's doing everything he can to try and fool a major league hitter. I don't think the hurry up offense worked against the Dodgers. So, I mean, if that's going to be a thing, I don't know. But should Pedro Avila get the start against Arizona, or should Rich Hill get the start?
Rich Hill should get the start. Because he can get through a lineup at least once most of this time. This was his shortest, worst outing of the year for the first time of the team he just got traded for. Dude has a track record. His ceiling is 2 inches above his floor. You know exactly who he is. He can get through a lineup once or twice. So I don't throw that on Pedro Avila. I think he's a promising young guy who I want to see pitch more. And maybe he's picking up the 3rd or the 4th after Hill gets through it once.
Yeah, it's kind of a Sophie's choice for me. I mean, and honestly, they should really be using, if they're going to use Rochelle, they should be using him in tandem with someone else and have a piggyback situation happening regardless. But I don't want to read too much into him pitching garbage time, which is what it was, and it's like, I know the Dodgers are a mentally strong team and they'll step on your throats if they can, but like they were up by 4 to 5 runs for the entirety of his start, or of his appearance.
Right.
So I don't think we should read into that and be like, oh, Pedro Avila slayed the Dodgers. So therefore, quote unquote, slayed the Dodgers. So like, therefore, like he should be our next starting pitcher. If he wants to piggyback with a chill, then great. That's fine with me.
That's cool. One quick note from Saturday's game. I mean, obviously great comeback. We already talked about the Cronenworth comments, so we can put that aside. I was glad to see Ray Kerr getting back into a game and finish that game and not have to turn it over to Josh Hader. I've really liked what I've seen from Kerr this week, and we need a power lefty, and it would be great if that was him. And I just wanted to give a quick hat tip to Gary Sanchez, still slugs, because we saw Ryan Yarbrough come into the game in his bulk reliever position for LA and do exactly what we wish Rich Hill could do for us. And the idea of we traded for the wrong sloppy lefty gained a lot of merit over this weekend.
Okay, hold on. Ryan Yarbrough probably puts up a 7 earned run inning if he's a Padre. So let's get maybe.
That's the nihilism that I just am love so much. Well, no, it doesn't matter whatever we do because any player we get will be worse, and any player they get will be better. So, like,
that's Padres deadline.
So you know what we should do? We should just put a log as our 26th player. We should just put a piece of wood as the 26th
mustache,
player,
and we're good.
Yeah, draw a funny some googly eyes and a funny mustache. Just put a log on the bench. That's how we'll beat him.
It gets better, Craig. It gets better.
Also, Blake Snell was not great, and Blake Snell's arrow is trending down. 4 straight starts. He has been super wobbly. 4 straight starts. So, Pracoda, that's for you. Okay. Looking ahead. The D-backs battle in Arizona starts on Friday, and this is the biggest series of the year. Period. This is the biggest series of the year to date. Because if you go to Chase Field and you get your ass kicked, now you're 5 or 6 games behind a team in the wild card. And the absolute opposite is also the truth. You can go in there and sweep those sons of bitches, and you can be past them or tied with them by the weekend, with them coming to your ballpark for 4 games the next week. This is it. It's go time. And the number one thing that can't happen this week is the LA hangover. How many times have we seen this franchise play a big series against LA and then go out and the very next game it looks like they're sleepwalking? And some team just takes advantage of them and runs roughshod over them because they're still litigating Hader in the 8th on Friday and giving up 8 runs on Monday and every other little emotional, and Joe Kelly calling Tatis a fucking bitch and all of it. Like, we can't afford any more. The only thing that we can afford LA to give us is those 3 losses. There can't be any lingering effects, or else this season will go down the drain. It's time, guys. 2 at Seattle, and the Mariners traded away Paul Sewald, and they're playing a little better. Like, they're not going to be a cookie or a pushover, and then Arizona becomes the biggest. So it's time right now. No more excuses. It's time. It's winning time right now.
Fernando Tatis Jr. needs to step up, Craig.
Yes.
He's guy who's been MVP 3, MVP 4. We need to see that player. Right now, he's at a sub 800 OPS. Sure, he's playing great defense. Got to give him all the credit in the world for learning a new position. I'm seeing people saying he needs a day off because he's tired. Well, I'm sure Grisham's tired. I'm sure Soto's tired. They've all played more games than Tatis. Our guy needs to step it up. He needs to have a persona defining month. He needs to be the guy, because we talked about it earlier in the year. He's the most important guy on the team. The team's fate is not in his hands, but he's the most important. He needs to play like it. Right?
Can I read a stat to you guys on the subject of Fernando?
Please.
Yeah.
Since July 1st, okay, Fernando has been rocking a weighted on base average, WOBA, of 289. Okay, it's not good.
That's not
that's
good.
Like what that's like what Trent Grisham put up last year. Okay, like somewhere in that neighborhood. His expected WOBA is 399.
Yeah,
basically 400.
That's
basically
better.
Juan Soto. Okay, well Juan Soto's a 405 this year. Okay, so he's hitting the shit out of the ball, and we've seen it. Like, he is hitting like warning track, like absolute lasers that are ending up in gloves, having James fucking Outman rob his home runs. It's whack-a-mole with that team, man. One of them goes away and then another annoying rookie pops up. Anyway,
Yeah.
if I were to say one thing to Fernando, I would say, don't change a thing. Keep doing what you're doing and good things will happen. What you can't let it do is get to your head. And I've started to see that. I've started to see him, the way he's like carrying the bat with him down the first baseline, holding the helmet in his hands. And it's like, it's got to be, hey, Matt Carpenter's getting paid $12 million. He should go up to him and say, hey, kid, don't do anything differently. You know, because I'm not worried about Fernando, but his luck needs to turn.
Well, you said it, man. And I'll just reiterate it, Chris, because what I was going to say is the same thing. Tatis has been getting robbed Tatis has been having so many 108-mile-an-hour liners die in gloves and die at the track. Tatis is gonna break out this week. It's Tatis time, and Fernando is going to have his week of the year, his best week of the year so far this week. You called him out. You're 100% right to call him out, Chris. Raphie's 100% right to say he's been under-resulting his performance for the last month.
The peripherals are good.
Very good, to the point that this is the right time to buy the stock. If you were like a DFS player, I would pay for Tatis each game on this road trip, because I think it's time for him to break out and for him to have that week that he carries the Padres to 5 straight wins. And it's go time, man. It is go time. From now on, the next 2 days are the only 2 days where a loss doesn't directly 100% guarantee drop you a game further down in the standings or bring you up a game closer in the standings. But every other game between here and after Labor Day is going to be that way for the Padres. So it's time to tighten the ship, and Tatis does need to lead the way. Machado's turned it around. Soto's turned it around. Kim is playing at a 6th or 7th on the MVP ballot level right now. Bogart's whatever. He just grounds into every key double play in history. But it's time. It's time for Tatis to make that big move. And I have a lot of confidence that he will. I have a lot of confidence that this week is going to be his week.
Your lips to God's cherry red ears, Craig.
Gentlemen, anything else before we get out of the hot tub here?
Go Padres.
Heal up, Joe. We love you, Joe.
Please, Joe. I didn't mean a word of it. Please come back healthy. Leave a comment. Win a Blake Snell autographed baseball. Thanks to everybody. We'll be back with group therapy later in the week. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Go Padres.